Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? Abraham had a great deal of experience in trusting God's plan. Abraham, who had been Abram originally, was asked by God to leave his homeland, to leave everything and settle a new land that God would give. Abraham took his wife Sarai, all that they had, lock, stock, and barrel, and moved. Abraham wanted nothing more than to just adjust and live his life. He wanted a son desperately, but Sarai was barren. This caused great angst and great suffering and trauma to both Abram and Sarai. And God came to them and said, don't worry. Don't worry. Your descendants are going to be numerous as the stars. You will have a son through Sarai. And I will give you a new name to prove it, both of you. Abram became Abraham. Sarai became Sarah. Sarah meaning princess, and Abraham meaning father of nations. But time went on. Abraham thought the laughter he had burst out with at God's announcement was going to prove right, that it was a joke. God came to Abraham and said, I'm making a covenant with you. Don't you understand? I'm making a covenant with you and your descendants. You will be my people. I will be your God. To prove it, the ritual of circumcision was instituted as Abraham's part of the bargain. And it had only been 3 days after this that Abraham, who was now 100, was again visited by God. God in the form of 3 mysterious strangers. Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? This stranger had to get a little sharp, maybe, with Sarah, because she was laughing. Once again, God said the old story, you're gonna have a child. This time Sarah laughed. Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? Well, look at us, Sarah said. I'm in my 90s, he's 100. It isn't gonna happen. And yet it did. And yet it did. Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? Paul depended on this through shipwrecks, imprisonments, and journeys, and disputes, and conflict, and all of the things that he faced in his life and his ministry. And his letter to the Romans is a particularly wonderful example all the way through of Paul's firm conviction that God not only does wonderful things, but God does them as a free gift given to all of us. That's called grace. And the book of Romans is all about God's grace, giving the present of faith. That God gives that to us without even asking, without even us realizing it's even there. Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? Even in suffering and pain, God uses those times. God uses those times to change us, to shape us, to form us, to help us in ways that we can't even imagine, to love more, to have more compassion, to have greater hope. The disciples probably looked at each other and realized they're going to need plenty of that when Jesus spelled out their mission. Go proclaim, do, heal, cast out. Do everything that I have been doing. Not going to be easy, by the way. You're going to meet resistance. It's going to be hard. But by golly, you're going to do it. The disciples probably laughed among themselves behind Jesus' back, I would imagine, at the absurdity of them. The normal, everyday human beings that Matthew makes sure we know that they are. Tax collectors, betrayers, sinners all. Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? We ask that too. We laugh at the absurdity that God would even want to use us, that God would even continue to love us each and every single day. But the truth is, he still does. We have the same potential as those disciples, as Abraham, as Paul. God gives us this free grace to love and to hope and to have compassion, to suffer with each other, to give ourselves completely to the service of the world that God has made. It's a free gift, and it's given. And we, my brothers and sisters, can depend on that. We can depend on that so much that our sort of jeering laughter, our laughter of disbelief, is turned into laughter of riotous, complete, overwhelming joy at what God can do and what we can do. And over again, even we say, is anything too wonderful for the Lord?